So this was actually a project. I moved to New York City, I have to be honest, many years ago, and Sharon Salzberg is here. And I had this idea of teaching mindfulness and meditation in juvenile halls. And Sharon actually helped connect me to some people here who ended up funding it and it growing. And that was many years ago. And so Gabrielle can tell you more about that.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having us, and thank you for founding Lineage Project in 1999. You were a visionary. This work wasn't being done. So Lineage Project brings mindfulness programs to kids who are incarcerated, homeless, suspended from school, and in high-needs public schools. And we also work with staff to train them in creating mindful and trauma-informed cultures. I came to the work, I was an attorney for kids in family court, kids in child abuse and neglect cases and injustice cases, and I also did policy and legislative work. And I sometimes like to tell a story that I'm going to tell you now that speaks to me about why this work is so important. So when I worked in family court, it's very crowded, it's overcrowded in New York City family court, and you wait as an attorney in the back of the courtroom and you wait for your cases to be heard, and you just watch people being processed, almost all people of color, almost all poor people. You watch people just being processed in and out of the system. And one of the things that happens is that in New York City, you know, there's a lot of use of hardware to restrict children in the justice system. So kids are shackled, kids are handcuffed, and kids are brought in, almost all boys of color, brought into the courtroom in handcuffs. And when the person takes the handcuffs off of them, I would notice time and again, I would notice that the officer would come over and they would unhandcuff the kids, and the kids would be standing like this, and they would stay like that the whole time. It was like they were keeping themselves handcuffed, like they had invisible handcuffs. And it made me start thinking, well, a lot of things I saw made me think, but I wondered, what are we doing to people when we teach them to handcuff themselves? And eventually I left work doing legislative and policy work to go into the field of mindfulness, because I believe that it's most potent tool we have, one of the most potent tools we have, to try to transform systems. But I also think as a field and as a community, we have a lot of work to do, because I don't think it's enough. Lineage Project doesn't think it's enough to just bring kids and staff tools of mindfulness. We think we have to engage in systemic change, and we are working at the intersection of systems change and mindfulness. And I want to leave you with some questions. I definitely don't have the answers to them. I am not joking when I say these are things that keep me up at night. But I want to really have us collectively start a conversation. I want you to join us at Lineage. I'm going to talk about ways you can get involved, and I hope that you will engage in this community of engaged practitioners to think about some of these questions, which are, what are the powers of mindfulness as a tool for systems change, and also what are its limitations? How can we, every one of us in this room, use mindfulness to collectively waken to our own humanity so that we stop handcuffing and shackling people? Ariana spoke before about being ambassadors of this kind of shift. I want us to think, how do we shift ourselves and use that as a way to shift the society? You have awakened hearts, you have awakened minds, that's why you're here. How do you take your awakened heart and your awakened mind and use it to push beyond the boundaries of your own cushion, if that appeals to you? And it doesn't for everyone, and that's okay too. But I think as a field, as practitioners, we have to wrestle with these questions. And so at Lineage, this looks like us working more and more with staff, looks like focusing on trauma and on the impact of trauma. What does it mean to bring mindfulness to kids when kids have learned to handcuff themselves? And how do we adapt the tools and the practice and the knowledge of our field to those situations? If we want to join us, we welcome you. You can look at our website, lineageproject.org. You can look at us on social media. We do trainings. We would love to have you come to our trainings. We would love to have you volunteer with us. But there's lots of people doing this work. It's not just us. The most important thing is that we get engaged. And so I want to end with this. Cornel West talks about, never forget that justice is what love looks like in public. Never forget what justice is, what love looks like in public. And so thank you. I wish that I said that. I mean,
you just did.
I would be done if those were my words. But I really, we can all work for justice. You can use your open eyes. You can use your open hearts. You are the fuel. You are awake. You have come here on a 3-day weekend to be a part of this, and that is really important. We are awakened love in practice. And I think the next step is, how do we put that awakened love into work so that all of our children are in a different society, so children are not handcuffing themselves. And so we're wrestling with these very deep questions about racial injustice, about trauma, about why it is okay to live in a society where children are shackled at the feet when they're brought to court, and how can mindfulness be part of shifting that culture? Thank you, Soren.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoa. Sit. Do you want to hear? What if you sit right here? Thank you. We'll hear your story in just a moment.
Please.
Joe, do you want to talk about Mindful, which the new kind of meditation studio that's now started in New York?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, thank you. We have not met, but that was amazing.
Thank you so much.
So I am the COO of Mindful Meditation Studio, which is the first drop-in guided meditation studio in New York. Our mission is to help make meditation accessible to everyone. So we, in that mission, we often hear people coming to us saying, you know, I dabble in meditation, I'm trying to develop a consistent practice, I can't really stick with it. That's what Mindful has been created to do. So we have we opened 2 this year. We have 3 physical meditation studios in New York. Our first one is in Greenwich Village. We opened one on the Upper East Side in January, and we opened one in Williamsburg in February. We are a pan-lineage studio. So what that means is we have 35 different instructors from all over New York who come from different lineages and traditions. So we have teachers from the Buddhist tradition, from the Zen tradition, from Jewish mindfulness, from Kundalini, from yogic. We have all these amazing teachers under one roof. We offer 30 and 45-minute classes, and we really try to make it very accessible. So no matter what your background or experience level might be, our goal, we're totally fine to be like the gateway drug into meditation. Our goal is just to kind of give people exposure to different types of meditations, find something that might resonate with them, and hopefully stick with it. We also, coming out of those 3 studios, have introduced a Mindful at Work program where we bring all of our teachers and content and we pair them with organizations or companies that are looking to develop cultural practices within their organizations. So we've also introduced that as well this year. We have also taken, all of our growth has come from community feedback. So one of the things that we heard was meditation on the go. When they couldn't make it into the studio, about 15% of people who come in are actually from outside of New York, which I would guess we have a mix in here. So we've introduced a mindful video online platform where we take all of our great teachers and try to give them to you online. And then finally, we actually have a Mindful Ed program, which is where we work with local schools in the area to bring mindfulness training into our local communities. So, you know, I would say, I know we have a lot to cover. Come check us out, mindful, MNDFL, meditation.com.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's kind of surprising. So there's one that opened in, a different person opened a mindful studio in New York, but we have all these yoga studios. But so thank you for doing that.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a growing trend, but the studio just is focused on providing access. So.
Beautiful, thank you.
Yeah.
Stephen, you want to talk about journey meditation and
what
you're doing?
Soren, thank you for bringing wisdom to New York. It's very much appreciated.
I brought wisdom,
much needed.
Wisdom didn't exist in New York until, Thank you.
So we started Journey in March of 2015, so about 2.5 years ago, with the goal of helping people live happier, healthier lives. Meditation changed my life, and I thought that if we could bring it to people in a simple, approachable way, it could really resonate. So put together a team of experts on the science side and on the wisdom side to combine these practices that human beings have been doing for thousands of years with everything that science now shows us about how the brain and body work. So I got to work with David Nichtern, my friend and teacher Sharon, people like Judd Brewer and James Doty out at Stanford, to really take these very authentic, rich practices and meet people where they are, bring it to people in a way that would land and resonate. And so we put together this program, and then we took it to the corporate world, because that was my former life, and started teaching. Our first client was Warby Parker, then we started teaching at Nike, Condé Nast, Facebook, Disney, lots of big companies, but also lots of small companies. We work at a number of hospitals, both here in New York and actually throughout the US, and we teach live in person, similar to what my friends at Mindful are doing. Nothing really quite beats being there and being able to connect human to human, and we have this team of about 50 really wonderfully blessed, amazing teachers throughout the US. And we also had a clinical study at New York University called The Effects of Journey Meditation on Cortisol, Stress Levels, and Executive Functioning. And that had fantastic results. It showed just 12 minutes of practice per day for 8 weeks led to significant reductions in anxiety, increases in attention, and improvement in mood. And I know that's nothing new to you guys, but it's really important that the science supports everything we're doing. So that's been a little bit of our journey, no pun intended. And we're about 6 weeks away from launching an app. One of the things that we found is that while students connect really deeply in class, what happens after that? And so we go in for about 30 minutes every week for a year or 2 years to really, again, meet people where they are and share meditation and these ancient practices in a way that's very simple and approachable.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
A little bit about us.
Thank you. Thank you. Lauren, first, I'm so glad you could make it.
Me too.
I don't know if you want to tell us about your journey here, but it doesn't really matter. You're here. So thank you.
Soren.
Are you in a good space?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you want to tell us a little bit about the Big Quiet?
Sure. Hi, I'm Lauren Bille. I'm a partner at the Big Quiet and Medi Club with Jesse Israel, who can't be here today. On my way here, I was in a small car accident in a cab, and then I needed to stop and be a witness. And then I jumped in another cab, and then many streets were shut down because Trump is in town. So it was very difficult to get here. I should have taken the train. But it was an interesting opportunity, as for whatever reason, things like this happen a lot in the city, specifically, and to me, where I have to let go of my plans and let it happen the way it's going to happen. So that was what was going on, and it was so wonderful to be received by people who were practicing mindfulness. Thank you. So the Big Quiet is a massive community of New Yorkers who come together regularly to share silence, sound, deep human connection, conversation. And we do this in 3 different ways. Medi Club is the way that it all started. Jesse, who's my partner, started it by accident. He invited about 40 people to his friend's loft in Soho about 2.5 years ago, or almost 3 years ago. 23 people came. They shared silence for 20 minutes and then hung out. And that was it. The next month, 50 people came. And they shared silence, and then Jesse vulnerably shared about what he was going through, and then other people in the room shared about what they were going through. And that's been the trend, and we've built on that since the time that he first really shared about what he was going through. And when you were talking about justice being love in public, I would say that a lot of our work is, as the leaders of this community and as facilitators of experiences for people in our audience to be vulnerable, we're trying to create love in public in a way that so often we're all taught to hide. And so we have Medi Club, which is now a 250-person gathering. It sells out every time. We move it from the city to Williamsburg, and it's expanded to include icebreakers, sound meditation, a performance, an acoustic performance. We just added singing to the roster, group singing, and then we have shares from people in the community where they talk about what's really going on in their lives, stuff that normally we don't talk about. So fear, love, sex, our relationship to money, our ego, things not working out the way that we want them to, and how to let go and exist in that process together in support. So it's grown just remarkably. It's amazing. It's magical. We are holding it and trying to figure out what our responsibility is with it. And the Big Quiet is a massive gathering. So once Medi Club kept selling out, Jesse and the community thought, why don't we try and make this for the whole city, since we can't fit the whole city in this loft. So they did one at Summer Stage Central Park, and 500 people came. And then we've gotten so many amazing opportunities since then. Again, when I sat here, I was talking about how letting life come as it goes. And the interesting thing about the Big Quiet is it's truly come to us, which is weird in a capitalist world. We haven't been aggressively looking. So we've got the opportunity to host at Madison Square Garden, at the top of the World Trade Center, at Oculus Transportation Hub, at Lincoln Center, on a cruise ship. And all of those things have been offered because people are really moved by the work. So the biggest one we've done is about 2,500. We've gotten offers to go to a few other cities. DC, San Francisco, Atlanta are the things that we've done thus far. And it's just me and him, and we have a part-time gal who works with us now. And all that we know is that there's something really magical that's being created in that room. And people leave feeling happy and connected. And meditation is one of the many technologies that we use in that room to help people live with love publicly. So if you want more information, all we have is an Instagram. It's at The Big Quiet, and I'm happy to talk to you more about it. But we're definitely looking for support as we try and figure out how to spread this thing.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. So there's a lot going on in New York for you New Yorkers. As I mentioned before, there's also retreat centers like Omega and Garrison and New York Insight, which is also here. So there's a lot happening. And it's really great to just be able to hear from you on some of the other endeavors and projects. And thank you all for the work that you do. And hopefully there'll be centers wherever you live popping up as well, and nonprofits focused on this. So thank you again for joining us.